Oh, there we go. Yeah, I could get a little bit of audio now, so um, I'm gonna go check it for live right now.
Yep,
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever done this, so
you're all
um,
good, my man.
yeah, yeah. So this is the first time I'm ever collabing with anyone. I think we're live here.
All right,
Uh,
I think so too. I see live in the top left.
here we go. Hold up. I'm doing like two. There's like two lives at once. Okay, here we go. All right, I'll just probably just disable the other one. All right, hold on. Let me get back to the live studio. All right, here we go. All right. So we've been live for about 2 minutes. Yeah. So if anyone joins, we'll see right there. But how you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. This first ever collab with anyone on YouTube. So I just
Hey,
decided to pick up this YouTube stuff at the start of the year. Um, yeah, after we won the cup and everything. So I noticed a lack of content on our side. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just pick it up here and see where this thing goes.
yeah, you never know where it's gonna go, man. I just started, 2 years ago now, and the things I'm doing. I used to watch like Danny T
Yeah,
all the
yeah, me too,
time, and
man.
next thing you know, now I'm talking to him on a consistent basis. So yeah, if you keep at him, and you never know what's gonna happen, but it's great to be your first collab. So
Yeah, yeah,
baby
and
steps,
especially someone like you with a lot of subscribers and a big following. So it's an honor to, you know,
Hey man, I'm nothing, man.
I mean, uh, I mean, Danny T. I've been there since like he's had like what like 600 subscribers or something like
Yeah,
that. It's insane. It was like 2019, and now he's growing, and
yep, I know,
he's at
man. It's awesome. I love his all his content and stuff. So it's a pleasure, that he reached out to me to work with him a little bit. So you just take step by step.
yeah, man. So uh, take me through your journey of how you got into MLS and how you got into supporting the crew.
Oh well, I'm actually kind of a late bloomer into the soccer world, to be fair. So I played soccer from when I started around like 8 years old. I was playing baseball before that, and then I got scared of the ball. So I tried out a new sport. My parents made me do soccer. Didn't want to do it at the time, but they forced me. And then I started playing, but I never actually watched any soccer until 2014. The World Cup happened. I even went to a soccer camp before that, and all the people there were talking about Messi is the best player ever, and I was like, "Who is Messi?" So again, I came from like nothing at all. Got into professional soccer, watched the World Cup, loved every minute of it, and then MLS wasn't the first thing I watched. I didn't even probably realize we had a team in Columbus for another year or so because I was watching the Premier League. That was where everything was at.
Hmm.
And it was kind of over the last 4 or 5 years where I'm watching my team over in England, Manchester City. I know I might get a little hate for that, but watching them, and I kind of felt disconnected a little bit because they're all the way over in England. You don't ever feel immersed in that kind of culture or anything. And I knew about Columbus, I knew about the crew, but I never went out of my way to watch them and support them, go to games. And again, I was looking for something that I could feel more immersed in. So started going to games. Every time I went to a game, it was a huge event because I only went, once a year maybe, and started watching every single game. Eventually, now I'm a season ticket member, and I love every minute of it. Going to games again, feeling connected with not only the team but other fans, meeting them. It's a much better atmosphere than you get when you're supporting a team over in England that you
Hmm.
may never see in real life. You may never meet any of those fans who are actually from that city. It's a whole different atmosphere. And so buying into MLS is, for me, just buying into the future of soccer in this country.
Yeah, I
For like,
totally I totally agree, and especially with the younger demographic getting into soccer more than any other sport, it just really shows how big this sport can become in this country, especially with a lot of families immigrating from other countries. You know, we got people from Mexico, people from South America, Europe. Soccer is
yep,
basically the only sport they have in those countries. When you compare it to here, when you got the NFL, you got the MLB, you got NBA, you got hockey. Uh, so soccer does really have a lot of sports to compete with, but uh, with the way the numbers are showing us, it looks like soccer is the wave of the future.
yes, it's definitely growing every year. And The one big thing that so many other people have said, but I'm a big subscriber to, is that there are a lot of soccer fans in this country. That's not what we lack in. What we lack in is those soccer fans supporting the domestic league. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a bunch of friends who love soccer. I talk to them about the Premier League all the time, but none of them will ever watch the Crew. If I drag them to a game, they'll come and they'll be happy doing it.
Hmm.
But they won't go out of their way to watch this league. And so that's the thing, trying to convert all these soccer lovers in this country to seeing MLS is something that has potential and to buy into it.
I think it's slowly the league is getting to that point where you back in the day you'd have players like David Beckham, Thierry Henry, David Villa, Frank Lampard, all these big name players come to MLS just to retire, and got the quote unquote retirement league status. But ever since I feel like the pinpoint. You could probably say Miguel Almiron. Ever since he came into MLS with Atlanta United, got immediate success with Atlanta, and then got sold for a record transfer fee over to Newcastle in the Prem. I think that's when really you started to see MLS trying to starting to transition into this where it is now, where you get young players from South America, Europe, develop them into great players, into household names in their respective markets and their respective clubs, and then eventually sell them on for a fee over to Europe. So, and it's had been happening a lot with the young Americans. You have Joe Scally, Austin Trusty. You even have Matt Turner, who came in through the draft system, and today he was on the bench for Arsenal in his first Premier League game.
I know it's amazing to see kind of what's happening. Again, as you mentioned, the last few days, Puig coming over from Barcelona, a 22-year-old, deciding that coming to LA Galaxy in the MLS is going to be the next step in his career to hopefully maybe launch himself back over to Europe to another massive team.
As a Barca fan, it absolutely sucks to lose him because he's one hell of a player. He's a great youngster, but with the money situation over there in Spain, it's
Yeah.
just not looking good, and they can't even register their new signings. They can't even register Dembele and Sergio Roberto, who signed new contracts, so they have to lower the wages. So
Yeah.
they had to send him over to LA Galaxy, who I believe he could do well, but will it help the Galaxy propel themselves back into their former selves? That's another question for another time.
Yeah, and then another guy. I mean, the guy we're going to end up talking about later on, Cucho Hernandez, another
Oh yeah,
Premier League player.
fellow
Um,
Colombian.
exactly. Yeah. So coming over at a very young age, deciding that MLS is the next step for him, and especially what's big in this transfer for me is he's coming to Columbus, which isn't one of these big cities when you think of the big names coming over. L.A., New York, Miami. Those are the teams that you expect these guys to fall to, and the fact that he's choosing Columbus, I think, kind of shows us in the future where big names are coming over not just to again retire or get some sun and everything. They're coming to make an impact on this league and kind of jumpstart their career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. NYCFC. Back in the day, when they were the new boys, they started signing these big name players like David Villa, Pirlo, Lampard. Villa was actually our very first signing in history. So that was a good way to come in and get the fans interested into this new project, this new club. Um, World Cup winner, Champions League winner, amazing pedigree. Played for Barcelona, played for big clubs in Spain. Um, and it really worked. It absolutely worked. Everybody bought their jerseys, and I've seen more NYCFC gear. Like I was in middle school back then when they were getting into the league in 2015. So it really did work out. But uh, nowadays, you fast forward 5 years later down the line, and you see NYCFC. Like they're not signing those big name players anymore. They're coming in for the younger players. You got players like Talis Magno, Tati Castellanos, who they just let go to Girona, who's going to get his uh, big experience in playing in La Liga. You got players like Santiago Rodriguez, these young players from South America coming over to the MLS. And we're developing them. And Tati, a lot of interest in him, but he's gone now. I think that was the inevitable. If it wasn't going to happen after MLS Cup, or if it wasn't going to happen during the summer, uh, he would have been gone by the end of the season.
Yeah, and what I'm surprised about is that it's just a loan to another, city football group team in Girona. For a guy like him who, had I think it was like 19 or something goals last year, led NYCFC to that MLS Cup and came in this year and fired off right away again. Um, the fact that he didn't get a big money move to, a bigger team out there was very surprising to me. And especially, again, it was a loan to another City Football Group team. So the plan is he's going to go there, make an impact, and then they'll be able to sell him for a little bit more. Because people must not believe in the talent he has, from those last 2 years in MLS.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if he would have stayed the full year, you probably would have seen NYCFC go far in the playoffs, possibly even repeat. And 100%, no doubt in my mind, he would have won the Golden Boot again if he stayed the whole year.
Yeah, and then that kind of leads into this big game over the weekend, Columbus, New York City FC. I think it's coming at a point where Columbus should be happy they're playing NYCFC at this stage because they just lost Tati, and I think they're still trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do without him because Tati added, a lot to this team, not just on the goal scoring front, but he was like a very high pressing forward. He brought the game to everyone, and he just had this energy about him, which I think NYCFC is missing. In their last game against Montreal, the 0-0 draw, they only had 2 shots, and not one of those was on target. So
That was a franchise low actually for us. 2 shots in a whole game. That was a franchise low.
yeah, so there's definitely a big missing spot up there, and whether Adair can come in and perform. I know he's got a few minutes this year, and he's done pretty well in those, picking up a few goals. But is he a full-time player for this team, or I don't know if you know anything about guys that they were looking at in this transfer window? Were they trying to bring anyone in?
They were trying to bring in Campaz, young 22-year-old Colombian from Gremio, who recently made his first cap with the senior national team of Colombia in June within a friendly. Unfortunately, negotiations with Gremio fell through, so they weren't so they couldn't agree on a transfer fee. So unfortunately, that deal went through, and the the window is now closed. So we can only sign free agents from Europe. Um, no, there's no interest. It's really hard to get news on NYCFC and their transfer rumors. They're a very like quiet club. They keep everything
Yeah.
on the low. So it's very difficult to get rumors. But uh, it's a shame that we didn't get anybody. Keaton Parks with the blood clot injury again. That's his second in his career. He missed the playoffs because of that. Um, but Alfredo Morales and James Sands at the moment, they back at the time they did absolutely phenomenal throughout the playoffs. Um, but now we have young players like Justin Hawk. He's coming in. He played for NYCFC too, and you can see that the reserve team really did help him. Really did help him. He got sharpened. Uh, Played a lot of minutes with the second team, and made 2 starts this year with the first team, and he's been fantastic. He's been phenomenal on the ball. Arguably, you could say he was probably the best player on the pitch for NYCFC against the Impact or CF Montreal.
Yeah, and then on the other side, Columbus, my team, we're coming in, at a time where we're starting to get a little bit more used to scoring goals, but it's not perfect at the moment. Again, we mentioned Cucho Hernandez coming over, and in the first few games he was here, I mean, he was bagging a bunch because he didn't even start in his first 3 games, and he already had 4 goals. And I think that was the first player in MLS history to have 4 goals in his first 90 minutes of action. Since then, it's kind of gone a little bit dark, but that's natural. I think 4 goals in 90 minutes throughout his first 3 games was a standard he wasn't going to be able to hold just because it's a little unrealistic. So
Yeah,
since then, we played New England, 0-0 draw there. We got rained out in Charlotte, but we did look pretty dangerous in that game. And then we played Montreal, and I think he looked great too. The issue right now we're having is um, it's kind of just Cucho at the moment because our wingers they don't add too much into the game. In this game against Montreal, the ball was fed to Luis Diaz multiple times, and he just kind of struggled figuring out what to do with it in some points. And that's been an issue with Luis Diaz for quite some time, where he gets the ball and his decisions to take a shot aren't the best, and they usually aren't on target. And then when he decides to pass it, sometimes that's also they don't just come off the cleanest. He did have a great pass in that game, a nice cross ball to Cucho. Should have been a goal if it wasn't for Montreal's keeper. But it is a big part of this attack where, in order for Cucho to succeed, he needs the guys around him. And Zelarayan, he's been doing great since he's come in. He really improved his goal tally, and I think he had like 5 assists in the first 3 games that Cucho was back or in the team. And then on the other side, Derek Etienne Jr. He's kind of having a little bit of a renaissance in Columbus after, maybe becoming a squad player with the Red Bulls. And this season, he's taken off. I think he's got 5 or 6 goals on the year so far. But he's kind of also died off a little bit in the last few weeks.
He's been balling out for Haiti as well in the Nations League when
Yep.
that was going on. So I was at the reverse fixture at Yankee Stadium when these two teams played back in May. Um, we had for like $5 tickets and it was like raining, but I was covered under like the second deck. I was in the first deck, and I actually sat behind his family, Derek Etienne's family, since he's from that New York, New Jersey area because he was a
Yeah.
former Red Bull, and I sat behind his family. It was really like wow, like they actually come to the games and they supported him. That was a really cool moment. And he came off and he pointed at them, and he clapped. To say thank you for coming to the game. But that was them when we had Tati Castellanos. We were kind of firing back from losing into the in the Champions League to Seattle. We completely dominated them in that second leg. Ended 1-1. We probably should, if it wasn't for Stefan Farmer, we probably could have had 6 or 7 on the night. Um, but and then after that, we had the weekend game against RSL, and then we just completely played them out of the off the field. We won that game 6-0. Um, and then we just kept the momentum going from there. And Columbus, uh, we had Columbus at home, and we won that game 2-0. Tyler Magno scored in the ninth minute. Uh, a great shot across his body into that far corner. Um, nothing room could do there. Even if he had, I don't remember if he dove or anything, but even if he had dived, it was so far into the corner that no keeper in the world probably would have saved that shot since it was nicely placed. And then, in the second half, Tati Castellanos with a nice counterattack, great ball over the top from Maxi Morales. Tati Castellanos onside because he was in his own half of the field, and he just runs and then just chips the keeper. Um, made it 2-0. That was a great goal. He typically would have missed those. If when Ever was the starter and he was playing out wide or when he wasn't getting enough minutes. When Ronnie Dylo was first here, he probably would have missed that. But since he got really sharp in that 2021 season, confidence was high. He was scoring a lot of goals back then, and it's 2-0. But Columbus, they did have a lot of chances in that game, but just no shots on target. I remember Zella Rayon in the 85th minute having a free kick, and we all know with Zella Rayon, he loves scoring free kicks against City. So thankfully, he hit the side netting. So it ended 2-0. But you guys had a lot of chances. I thought after we scored that first goal at Yankee Stadium, you kind of let off the gas a little bit, and we kind of let you guys have the ball. We just kind of invited that pressure and let you guys play with the ball a little bit. Thankfully, we didn't pay for it, but that must have been. I don't know if you were watching that game, but if I was a Columbus fan, I'd definitely be frustrated with the way they were making chances, but they just couldn't hit the net.
Yeah, that was a big problem at the beginning of the year, and something I'm hoping the rest of this season, especially with Cucho in the squad, we're able to fix. Because you're right, we were creating many chances, especially in our first couple weeks, and we just couldn't score them. And that's why Miguel Berry was starting at first. He ended up, losing that position. Zardes, he couldn't do anything either. Got traded to Colorado. We ended up bringing in Jason Russell Rowe from Crew Two. He was able to create some stuff in the one start he had. And then he started another game, but nothing else kind of happened from his debut, since his debut. And then, Miguel Berry, he's off to DC. Cucho Hernandez is in. We've kind of relied on multiple guys up top this season. Again, I mentioned Zardes, Berry, Hurtado had a few games where he got us a win, especially away in Atlanta. And yeah, it was frustrating to see that. The good thing is we're at home in this game, and this game is kind of based on who's the home team. It seems like we played in New York 2 times. The last 2 times, New York City FC won, and the Crew, they've won 5 out of their last 6 at home against NYCFC. So that's the great part. The issue is it might be raining in Columbus though, and recently we've had a lot of issues with rain delay. Connor No Soccer mentioning it in the comments. In Charlotte, rain delay there. Game was ended up being canceled, and then in this last one, against Montreal, another rain delay. And when we came out after that, we just were not the same team. And Montreal were able to come away with the win there in the last 5 minutes, scoring 2 goals to turn that into a 2-1 win. But for Columbus, I'm excited what this game can hold. Again, it's one that it's coming at the right time, I think, for playing NYCFC because they're still getting used to the new Tati, new squad without Tati, and I think the manager Nick Cushing's is also still trying to figure out the squad. I'd like to know what you kind of think about your guys' new manager right now, or interim manager.
Oh, he came in. Ronnie Dyla left, which was a very sad moment for the club. Since he was the manager that won us our first ever trophy, first ever MLS Cup. So it was very sad to see him go. Um, we had heard about the rumors around the time where we played you guys in May, but it was just rumors. It was just like something like you fabricate out of thin air. That's what it seemed like back then, back in May, around the time that we lost in the Champions League and whatnot. So we just kind of brushed it off. We didn't think anything of it. Um, so we just continued on, and we get to the end of we get to the end. We kind of, I guess you could kind of say halfway point of the season where you had that 3 week international break after the end of May. We just beat Minnesota 1-0 in Minnesota, which is a good win. Where Minnesota had so many opportunities, but they just couldn't find the back of the net. Um, so we won that game 1-0, and then you have a 3 week international break where everything goes dead in MLS. So uh, we were just there, and then we heard when the rumors resurface, and it kind of gets louder and louder, and then next thing you know, Ronnie's gone. Um, he's off to Belgium. So and he took Efrain Juarez, who was his assistant manager, who was his number two, his right hand man. So it had Ronnie left the club, it was just him. Without Efrain Juarez, it probably would have been him to be the interim manager. But since Nick Cushing was number three on that pecking order, it was Ronnie, Efrain Juarez, and then Nick Cushing. So he was third in the pecking order. Since the top two left, he was left in charge of the squad. And he had a little bit of a rocky start. A 1-1 draw against Colorado. Um, yeah, but we did play exceptionally well in that game. We did go down 1-0. That was our streak was broken at about 678 minutes or so without conceding a goal. Um, our streak was broken, and we tied up a few minutes later with Talis Magno getting a goal. But we played exceptionally well. I thought we created enough opportunities to get the win. We just didn't take them. Um, and then quick turnaround. 4 days later, we have the Red Bulls in the U.S. Open Cup, a quarterfinal, a massive, massive game. Um, in the stakes of a U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal, one-game elimination, and we absolutely get played off the park in that game. We lose 3-0. At halftime, it was 0-0, and I thought the first half we played really well, but just the Red Bulls, they historically they just had our number, and Thiago Andrade getting a red card when we were 1-0 down. As soon as we got that red card, I was just like, man, there's no way we're gonna come back from this. We go down a man, we go down an attacker. So it was just a very poor moment from uh, Thiago Andrade throwing in that head, but gets a red card, and then we concede two more. We just completely capitulate, and then another quick turnaround. We had 3 games in a week that week, and we had Philadelphia in the league. Um, we concede early in the first half. A very poor goal. The ball that should have been saved by Sean Johnson, or a ball or a cross that could have been dealt with better by Chanel. Um, we lost Thiago Martins to injury in the Colorado game, so it was Chanel and Callens playing at center back that game, and in the game against the Red Bulls. It was a very, very poor, very slow shot that Sean Johnson let in. We go down 1-0 in the 7th minute, and the second half we bring on Tinnerholm, we bring on Munson for Gloucester and Tavon Gray, and this team we just completely dominated Philly in that second half. We get Tinnerholm, his first game back since that injury in October, played a full half. He was absolutely phenomenal that game. He was so good. He won us a penalty kick. with the low cross being deflected away by a Philadelphia defender hitting his arm in an unnatural position. We get a penalty in the 88th minute. Tati steps up and scores. So 88th minute penalty. You think you score it 1-1. You're like, yes, we're gonna come away with here with a point. It should have been much more, but then just a quick playoff, a throw in and stoppage time, and Philadelphia they get another goal, but it was a controversial offside goal. Um, of course, because I'm a City fan, I'm going to say that's offside, but the referees didn't see it that way after going to VAR. We lose the game 2-1, unfortunately, but Sean Johnson, he could have done better with both of those shots. But if it wasn't for Sean Johnson, we probably would have lost the game by a lot more in that first half. We probably could have been 3-0 down by halftime if it wasn't for Sean Johnson.
That's what kind of scares me is Sean Johnson is, such an incredible player. I'm sure right now NYCFC are on like a clean sheet like streak at the moment. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's the
Right?
that's the second that's the second time NYCFC had 4 clean sheets in a row. That's the first time in MLS history, and Sean Johnson leads the league in clean sheets with 12.
Yeah. So a great defense over there, especially led by Sean Johnson. I'm not scared because I'm never scared when we play any team, but I think definitely scoring a goal is going to be tough against NYCFC because of those reasons. And again, same with us going back to what I was talking about with Cucho and our wingers. We kind of struggle and maybe we're a little bit disjointed sometimes in the attack. I think what we really need is Zelarayan to be on his game for us and kind of just feeding Cucho. For Cucho, I'm a little still curious about how he plays. Sometimes I feel like he's not um, quite the number nine that is the typical number nine. He loves to go wide and pick the ball up and try to create opportunities. But sometimes when he does that, I feel like he maybe drags himself away from that, poacher position where, you know, Diaz could play in a ball, Etienne could play in a ball, or Zelleround can too. So, I don't want to say that I know him because obviously he's playing in MLS, knows what he's doing. But that's maybe something that I would look at and try to get him to be more kind of single-minded. And that's not a bad thing at all that he tries to do a lot. I feel like he might be a little bit more dangerous if you let your kind of wingers take that ball in themselves, and you kind of stay in that box and you try to finish anything they can put in there. You mentioned your guys' manager, so I'm gonna just kind of talk about Caleb Porter for a minute because right now it's kind of a hot topic. At least it feels like that. I'm in the Columbus Nordeca Facebook group, so I hear a
Yeah,
lot of very strong vocal opinions. And Porter out has been a thing that people have been talking about since last year. When we missed the playoffs after having a very good team that kind of was decimated by injury,
as defending
and then coming
champions as
into
well.
this.
You guys missed the playoffs as defending champions.
Yeah, and that's Caleb Porter's special right there. He wins the league one year and then misses the playoffs the next. He did that in Portland, and he brought that over to Columbus with him. So right now, especially after that Montreal game, it really left a sour taste, I think, in everyone's mouth because we've started off so well, and then as it went on, especially after the weather delay, we came out and it looked like we were sitting back. It looked like we were playing defensively, and a lot of people were not happy about that. I know that players have come out in the press conferences since then saying that that wasn't the plan whatsoever. It's just kind of the game slipped away from them. But that's not really going to change a lot of people's opinions. They feel like Caleb Porter has a little bit of some tactical issues with his ideas. For me, I'm not a Caleb Porter out guy because I never really wish anyone to get fired from their job. I think that's very harsh. Um, and he has shown the ability to pull off results, and I'm not confident that you bring in another manager and that they would be able to fire off right away. I think that he knows this squad, and I think he knows how to win. So currently, I'm Porter in, keep him in at the helmet at least until the end of the season. When you finish the season, kind of look back retrospectively. Where'd you guys finish? Did you make the playoffs? If we don't make the playoffs, I think that he does need to go. We need a little bit of a change, but I'm never a big fan of losing a manager middle of the season, especially they're in sixth place right now, and they're still in a great possibility to make the playoffs. And it's so tight in these conferences where one win, 3 points, you would be able to jump all the way up to third, fourth place.
Yeah, I agree. And Connor with a comment here says, "Crew Twitter thinks they know everything when it comes down to tactics," and I think a lot of them their top priority is soccer. Uh, so I don't know what you make about that comment.
To be honest, I know that Crew Twitter has a definitely has a vocal voice coming from them all the time, and some takes, I take with a grain of salt. For me, I think Eloy Room, that's another guy who really gets a lot of hate on social media. I'm not too disappointed in how he's played. There are times where, he maybe isn't the most solid keeper and makes a mistake, but he also saves us multiple times in games. So for me, I'm a kind of a different fan where I don't get too heated in rash decisions and making very strong statements regarding players because it's all a game of soccer. So I'm
Yeah,
not gonna, attack someone because they drop the ball somewhere because I've played the game, and even though I'm not at a professional level, I know mistakes happen and I expect mistakes to happen on the field for these professional guys too. Everyone's human. So I do, I agree with Connor in the sense that crew Twitter, sometimes they do think they know what they're talking about, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't, just like every other person.
yeah. I have a few. I know a few people from the NYCFC community in their Twitter. Thinking that maybe the next big upgrade for us position wise is the goalkeeper position. And Sean Johnson, he's going to be a free agent, so I'm not sure whether the club later
Oh,
down the line um, will extend his contract along with Tinnerholm and Callens. They'll also be free agents by the end of the season. So I'm not sure if the club is gonna make a new contract extension for them. But um, I had heard people saying that the next big position upgrade is on goalkeeper. And Sean Johnson, he's our goalkeeper. He's our captain. He just captained us to an MLS Cup, even though he was inconsistent last season. Had to miss a few games because he was with the U.S. in the Gold Cup. We did have Luis Baraza, our second keeper, come in for a few games during the summer. Um, he was all right. He was great as a second keeper. But main point is that sometimes Johnson does get a lot of hate, but at the same time he like much like Eloy, he does make uh, some incredible saves here and there. If it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have won MLS Cup either with those two big saves in the shootout against Portland pretty early on. Um, that you could argue that gave us the boost to win the cup in the shootout. Um, so I really wouldn't want to lose him after what he did to the club. He's been here since 2017. Was going to play for Atlanta United, but then the organization at Atlanta, they realized they could sign Brad Guzan, and then he just shipped us over here. So it worked out in
yeah,
the end. Brad Guzan and Sean Johnson, they both have MLS Cups now, so I guess it worked out in the end. But that's what NYCFC Twitter says. I do have a friend that doesn't really like Sean Johnson, doesn't really like how the way he plays, and sometimes um, in situations where he thinks he could do better, he just kind of just stands there and just does and just raises his hand like this for offside, looking at the side official, and he's like, "Oh, that's the Sean Johnson. That's like the iconic Sean Johnson move to do." But the defense is organized, and most of the time, whenever Sean Johnson doesn't react to anything, most of the time it's offside. With the new rule, where the referees they can't do anything until the play is over. Um, but I think back to the games against Philly, the game against Cincinnati with that wild 4-4 draw, where at towards the end of the game, Cincinnati they just had us pinned in our own box in our own half. We just couldn't do anything with the ball. And Sean Johnson, he had like 3 or 4 tremendous saves towards the end of the game to preserve the point. Really a point that we kind of just like just pulled out of our ass really. Being 3-0 down and to level it up 3-3 before halftime, and then funny thing is that I have friends in the community saying that they saw like Man City fans like on Twitter saying, "Oh, maybe they are a part of CFG because they could score 3 goals before halftime and make it 3-3." I mean, I guess this is just the city way, but you know, uh, he's a great keeper. Commissioner's pick in All Star game Unfortunately, lost out to Chicharito, who will be captaining that team. But um, it'll be great to see our guys Callens and Johnson represent us. Totti was supposed to represent us as well, but he's gone to Spain now. Um, so it's really good to see us have some recognition in the All Star game. Um, but I do believe like if it comes down to it, he could really be a good goalkeeper. And I know people US17 fans aren't a big fan of him being the number one when it comes to Qatar 2022. But let's say worst case scenario, say one of our guys gets injured, or like Zach Steffen in the June camp, had to leave due to family emergencies or whatnot. Say a worst case scenario, like these guys, they aren't getting playing time, even though Steffen just went to, uh, I believe, Middlesbrough in the
Hmm.
championship to get some starting minutes. Horvath with Forest and Turner with Arsenal. They're not really gonna play other than a few cup matches here and there. So Johnson's really the only one out of the four that's really getting consistent starting time, consistent minutes, and he's actually a pretty decent keeper. Tall, uh, very athletic. He could make a few saves here and there that possibly other keepers couldn't pull. But I wouldn't mind him starting in Qatar. Worst case scenario, uh, you know, God forbid, like all these goalkeepers go down with injuries or whatnot. Johnson in goal for the US17. Um, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I know I'm a City fan, so there's going to be a little bit of bias, but um, Johnson and net wouldn't be that bad of an idea for the US17 come Qatar.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you in the sense that I wouldn't be too disappointed to see Johnson in net either. Again, we have a lot time until that World Cup happens, so seeing how much game time Turner is actually getting, which is going to be very minimal, and Zach Steffen, he is starting for Middlesbrough right now. I'm following kind of how he's doing one because USMNT, but also he's a Columbus guy, so I love watching kind of his career. And after the first game, they played West Brom, a 1-1 draw. He had a few mishaps in his distribution, but scrolling through all the comments from all the Middlesbrough fans, they were really happy with how he played. They were talking about how he saved them some points, showed up big time, and they're really happy to have him at the club. So I think we got to see how these next few months go with him in goal because he is shaky at some points. I
Yeah.
think earlier in this year, my depth chart for the goalkeeper position was Turner on top, probably Zach Steffen second, and then Johnson. But again, we'll see how Steffen plays here. He might be able to jump up to the number one spot. I think not playing a lot is going to hamper Turner's abilities. And if Son Johnson can keep it up in goal, I mean, he's always a possibility to at least add pressure to the other goalkeepers in the squad.
Well, Connor says Horvath just moved to Luton Town on loan, so he's still in the championship. But at the same time, Johnson, he has 12 clean sheets on the season, first ever goalkeeper to have a streak of four clean sheets, two times in one season. Um, and he's only four clean sheets away from tying the single season record, and we have about like I believe like 12 games left. So if he can get 4 or 5 clean sheets, which I don't think it's out of the possibility that NYCFC can get 4 or 5 clean sheets because um, I watched the podcast NYCFC Forever podcast, and one of the guys they said Nick Cushing said to one of the players, even when we play bad, we still find a way to get a draw. So Montreal, that's a prime example. We had games. We went to Dallas where it was like over 100 degrees in the midweek on a Wednesday night, and we were still able to squeak out a 1-0 win over there. That was a massive win. Um, even when you play bad like that, you still find a way to get results. I think it just speaks testament to how unified this team is and how strong like they believe in they back Nick Cushing. I believe Nick Cushing does really well this season. I believe he can be permanently our officially like our next manager. David Lee, when Dyla left in his first ever press conference, he said that Nick Cushing is in the running of the job. So depending on how the rest of the 2022 season goes for Nick Cushing, he could possibly still be in the dugout for NYCFC. Um, at the start, I was probably Cushing out, maybe a little bit harsh because the expectations are high at a club where winning is the standard. Um, Rocky start, winless in his first 5-6 games as a manager, and then he finally gets the monkey off his back against New England with those controversial 3 penalties, and a win is a win, and then the team just started rolling on from there. The big win against the Red Bulls, obviously the game I mentioned, Dallas, that was a big win, and then Miami, Tati send off, another clean sheet in that game, and then you know. A downer, Montreal. It's the first game in the post Tati era. No Tati in the lineup. Um, we played absolutely terribly. We got dominated the whole game. I believe Montreal, they fully deserved the 3 points the way they played. Mason Toy blocked a couple of shots from his teammates. So possibly if those shots were on target, Mason Toy possibly costed his team 2 points on that night. But um, even when we play bad, we could still find a way just to grind out like an ugly 0-0 draw, possibly an ugly 1-0 win. Um, so I'm not sure if that's the way we're gonna play in Columbus. Obviously the game's tomorrow, so um, hopefully it doesn't rain out like what Connor says. Connor says possibly a rain delay depending on the weather. That seems to be a trend with Columbus. In the last 2 games, you guys got rained out in Charlotte. Nearly got rained out again in the midweek. But you guys played midweek, so maybe perhaps the team is a bit tired after playing, a game against a good opponent in Montreal. Um, but City does have to travel. But um, I still believe if City could find a way to, stay in the game, save Columbus is like pinning us in our own half, and like, just one counterattack. It takes one chance, and if you take it, that could really change the complexion of the whole game. Um, some people said that the more it went 0-0 in Montreal, the more it felt like City were going to counterattack and like snatch all 3 points, get a 1-0 win. But again, we just have to find a way to play without Tati. He's the best defensive forward in the league. Now that he's gone, we have to find a new system how to play without him. We've seen in a couple of games where he was injured or suspended. Uh, they City just lacked that the creativeness up top that Tati brought to this team, and we were still able to win games without him, but they were just kind of just like grinding out 1-0 wins. So that's a big worry, but I believe Cushing could find a way because Everett, he did prove it in 2019 when he was brand new over to City. He scored 15 goals in his first season, so uh, but then he had the ACL tear in 2020, and he was kind of wasteful before he was injured. So it was a very sad thing to see Everett go down like that, especially when he was in a bad run of form. But in the limited minutes he's played, he's got 6 goals. So that's very impressive for a backup striker to have 6 goals when you're sitting on the bench most of the time. So he's still a very dangerous stat, and he could definitely win aerial battles. I'm not sure if that's a weakness for Columbus. I know that the second goal was a ball over the top, a good touch, and then just slots it under the keeper. Then late in stoppage time. So I don't know how you feel about City going forward without Tati.
Well, I will tell you how I feel about Columbus on aerial duels, and I don't feel confident whatsoever. You mentioned that that first goal off a corner that Montreal scored. Kai Kamara absolutely towered over Jonathan Mensah, our captain. Not a pretty sight to see, and that's been an issue for us, for this year and some of last year too, where our set piece defending is really poor, and then the second goal that Montreal scored against us on Wednesday. Another ball that was kind of played in the air. We couldn't deal with it, and Montreal center back was able to bring it down and get a shot off in 2 touches. So, I think if New York City can take advantage of that aerial game, especially with guys on set pieces like Max Morales, who know how to, send in a good ball, that is definitely going to be dangerous for us. But for Columbus, this is a must-win game. I mean, you just dropped a huge 3 points against someone you're, in contention with for playoff spots at home in the last few minutes. Now you got another team who is kind of killing it this season, sitting in second place in the East, coming to your home, lower.com field, and it hasn't felt like home for a lot of this year because we have 6 points out of a possible 18 since May. It's not a fortress whatsoever, and we have to make it one. So New York City coming over to Columbus, we have to be ready. I'm hoping that the big emotional loss on Wednesdays doesn't affect us too much tomorrow because to be honest, it was heartbreaking watching all the players on the field after the game. They kind of stood there stunned. Montreal, they were gritting all over the field, and I just sat there and watched it, and I was so upset. So I'm hoping that we see a little mental toughness from this Columbus team, and
Oh
that they'll
yeah,
be able to persevere through that. But
I've seen
right now,
him.
there's yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
no, you can go.
Oh, all right, I've seen people on NYCFC Twitter like licking their chops at like when Columbus dropped the ball against Montreal. They're like, "Oh, this is the
Yeah,
team we play next. Absolutely, like, give it to us." Like, you know, they just had like the low one of the lowest of the lows point of
yep,
their season. You're 1-0 up with about what, like 15 minutes left in the game after a rain delay. You think you could just like kind of sit back, take the pressure, take your foot off the gas a little bit, and then you get shell shocked. Kai Kamara, former crew, scored the equalizer, and then a ball over the top, and then just two touches ends up in the goal. So I've seen people on NYCFC Twitter be like, "Oh yes, just give us this team now. If we could pull something like that, just say like, you know, basically a copy and paste the Montreal game. Say we're down 1-0 or it's a 0-0 draw. And you catch Columbus lacking. Like Montreal did in the midweek. You could possibly go to Columbus and snatch out 3 points when you really think you'd probably go home with nothing at all.
yeah, and I think that's rightfully so. They should be ready to pounce on a Columbus team that probably isn't feeling the best at the moment. We sit in sixth place currently on 30 points. We do have a game in hand on most of the teams, especially because of that Charlotte rain delay. But New York City FC also have 22 games played. They're sitting on 42 points, and they're kind of chasing Philadelphia at the moment. So they want to still stay in that supporter shield race with LAFC and Philadelphia. So they're going to be coming to Columbus ready to get a massive 3 points on the road. And for Columbus, I mean, we're just trying to stay above the line. That's my goal at the moment. Stay above the line. We want to be in the playoffs again. We missed it last year. We've gotten into the playoffs and in the playoff spots over the last few weeks, and we managed to stay there. And so now it's all about keeping it tight because it's such a tight conference at the moment. Again, we're at 30 points, and only 1 point separates sixth place to ninth place, and only 3 points separate sixth place all the way down to 11th place.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
a it's a
super.
jog it's a jog land here in the Eastern Conference. Anything could happen in the East.
Yeah, and we're in the final, home stretch, about 12, 13 games left for these teams. Um, Momentum and huge wins can really push a team forward at this time. So we're looking for kind of a result here to set the game straight again and get us back rolling.
Connor, the comment here says set pieces have been our Achilles heel all season.
Yeah, and he has a very good point there. Again, watching, so many times this season, opposing players just really dominate in the air against, Josh Williams and Jonathan Mensah has really, left that image in my head because there's no way our captain, our 6'2" captain, should be towered over by especially Kai Kamara, who again used to play for the Crew, and there's a lot of animosity between him and Crew fans. So he's right. It's been our Achilles heel, and I think that I'm hoping we'll be ready when New York City FC come to town.
Yeah, because we got guys like Maxi, we got guys like Santi. They could definitely whip it across to somebody like Talis Magno, Eber, or even Alexander Callens, who's been a threat from center back. He has 4 goals on the season from center back, so he's been very good on set pieces. Um, you know, uh, he's not just good defensively, but he's also very good in the air. He can win headers. Uh, scored off a couple of headers this season. So is Eber and Talis Magno. Set pieces we've been really good on set pieces ever since Ronnie Dyla came into the club, and he brought in like his staff with about set pieces and whatnot. Um, I've seen this club score more from like corners and free kicks. Um, again in the playoffs, that was really something that we executed perfectly on. From free kicks and corners, set piece plays. Sometimes a game could be won or lost by a set piece play.
And then I just want to answer Isaiah's comment in the chat. He's saying, "What can I credit Caleb Porter with when it comes to Columbus being above the line now?" And the main thing that stands out for me, what Caleb Porter has done with his team is he's been adaptable. I mean, when stuff wasn't working with Miguel Berry up top. He tried to figure it out. We played multiple formations over the past month or so. We tried three in the back. We realized that didn't really work well, so we tried to adapt. We played two up top, and he's just trying all these things to get his points. Cucho coming in, that's another big plus. Something that I definitely think he had a little bit of say in. So scouting the right guy, bringing him in, and kind of fitting him right into the team. That's what I'm going to credit Caleb Porter with. He's adaptable and he's trying to figure out ways to lift this team up. I know that again, as we talked about earlier in this stream, a lot of people are talking about Caleb Porter out, but for me, I think you got to finish the season out with him and see where it all ends up.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor with another comment here. He says 4-2-3-1 has been solid since we switched to it.
Yeah, we've looked a lot more stable with it. And again, when you look at who we have in our back line right now, Milos Degenek has been out for a little bit. He's slowly getting back into it. But Josh Williams and Mensah, they have been very solid defensively when balls aren't flying in the air. And then also using our outside backs has been very great for us too. Steven Marrera, he came in middle of the season last year over from France. He's been a great addition to the squad. He looks very strong in the attack as well as defensively. And on the other side, we have Pedro Santos, who isn't a born left back. He used to play on the wing in the middle too. He's been dropped back to left back position, and I don't know if he still does, but he was leading the league in tackles right before the international break, and he's been a great player for someone who isn't used to playing that left back position. Again, he's been solid defensively, and then he's also been great in the attack, trying to create opportunities.
Yeah, I think with our fullbacks, Tinnerholm is a big loss. But he's had training. We've seen pictures of him in training today. Um, Apparently, he's traveled with the team to Columbus, but on the injury report, it says that he'll be out with a lower body injury. Chanot's going to be out, and Max Morales he picked up an injury in the game against Montreal. So um, I'm not sure if we're going to see Santi in that number 10. He's really improved this season. Possibly Santi Rodriguez could be in that number 10 role. Um, we've seen him had good games in that 10 role. Again, like Maxi, he can whip in a ball from a set piece um, or a cross. Definitely better crosses than Tavon Gray, which is something that's really lacking in his game. He's good defensively, but on the ball, he's not really that good. Like to say, like a Tinnerholm. His crosses aren't that good either. Even just terrible crosses. Just can't find his target. But I did see his crosses in person in that against Miami. So his crosses, to be fair, were a bit better, but he's just hitting him straight at the goalkeeper. But it's better to see him kind of improve on those crosses a bit. We do have that wide threat with the fullbacks. But at the same time, we have guys like Gabriel Pereira, Talis Magno, um, Tiago Andrade, Eber. These guys are all like integral parts of the team. So that's why when Tati left, I'm just like, oh, okay, we have more guys. This team is more than just Tati. Tati carried the biggest loads, but these guys they can also pull their weight. So, um, it's pretty early on in the post Tati era, so I'm not really gonna overreact just by one game after Tati left. So, although it could be a bit concerning, but we'll just have to see going forward how this team plays.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of wrap it up, looking on the Columbus injury front, right now we got a clean kind of record, other than Josh Williams, who is questionable because he's dealing with some flu symptoms at the moment. But other than that, this team has had injury problems a few times throughout this year, but everyone's healthy now. Artur, he's the big guy who's been missing for a few months now. He's coming back into the fold, and this Columbus team, they're getting healthy at the right time in this last home stretch, and I'm hoping that they're going to be able to kind of pick up the slack that they've had this season and finish out strong.
Yeah, Isaiah with the question here, he said, "I gotta ask, what do you do with NYCFC's formation and roster selection now that Tati jetted to Girona?" I think uh, you just play. Probably give Eber a few opportunities in that lineup, and perhaps see. If it doesn't work out, then we probably change the lineup. Um, to have the Talos Magno in that number 9 position. Ronnie Dylo, when he was here, he talked a lot about Magno being in that number 9 position. Um, but right now, Eber is the number 9. He's the starting striker for us. He's proven he could be a goal scorer in this league. Before his injury, um, he's proven it again with being as a backup. The top of his backup, he had 6 goals on the season so far, which is actually really impressive coming off an ACL tear. Missed most of 2021 because of that ACL tear. Didn't play a lot. Um, if he did start in that Philadelphia game, that was his first start in the playoffs since his injury. We kind of lacked a little bit of creativity up until the 60th minute of that playoff game, and that's when Ronnie just decided to push the 2 6s up the field. I know in the last game we had Alfredo Morales miss out with the suspension, so he's coming back for this game. He's a rocking defensive midfield. Um, probably possibly like to see him and Justin Hawk play in that midfield to see how that looks like together, and just give Santi a chance at that number 10 position with Baxi out because when you had those two in the lineups, they kind of occupy the same spaces. So I love to see how Santi Rodriguez fares in that number 10.
Yeah, I think that's some great insight from you. I think that's all I gotta say. So if
Yeah,
you got anything else,
just disappointed that City didn't sign anybody in the transfer window, but
hey,
um,
Columbus are in the same boat. I mean, we did get Cucho in and a few Crew 2 guys, but this squad I think could use a little bit extra boost, and we didn't see anything at least yet. And there's still, I guess, a few days or so with those free agents.
all right. To wrap it all up, score prediction for this game. How do you see this game going?
Oh man, you got to drop the score prediction on me. Let me think. I think I have to back Columbus. Obviously, I would not be surprised if I see a draw, but I'm gonna go with a 1-0 win to Columbus.
All right, all right. I wouldn't be surprised with if we see a draw either. Say like a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw. With the way this team played in Montreal, I would happily take another draw on the road. This month of August is going to be absolutely brutal for NYCFC. Most of their games are going to be on the road. Just announced today, the Chicago Fire for the second year in a row against us will have to play at SeatGeek Stadium, which was their old stadium. So, much like us, we'd have to, schedule to other stadiums. So, happy to see that we're not the only club that has to do that. Um, Hopefully, that stadium plans could be approved in Queens at Willits Point as soon as possible. But we're gonna have teams like Orlando, Chicago on the road, Columbus, that's tomorrow, Miami on the road, and then we have 2 home games, quote unquote home games at Red Bull Arena against Charlotte, who are a good team. That they're a team not to mess around with. Uh, Probably not as good as an away team as a home team, but you still can't take them lightly because they got guys. And DC, they with Wayne Rooney now at the helm, and they just brought in Benteke today from Crystal Palace, so that's a big signing for them. Um, Score prediction, I think we could possibly see a 1-1 draw, but I'm gonna back the boys. I'm gonna say 2-1.
No, right. I could see that happening too, but I'm definitely hoping the Crew set things straight in this game. I left with a really bad feeling on Wednesday, and I need something to cheer me up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, so tell the guys where they can find you.
You can find me just looking up the name that you see on the screen right now, Anthony LaRosa, on YouTube. I'm crawling my way up the American soccer creator pyramid right now. I'm, doing videos, narrative videos where I kind of dive into the history of the league, and then also, weekly previews, just talking about the news. And I'm an MLS guy, so if you're into MLS content, which you will be if you're watching this stream and you watch Talk NYCFC, feel free to check me out, and I'll be great to have you over on the channel.
All right. All right. Sounds good. Anthony, thank you for coming on the channel. First collab for me, first live stream. I hope it went well. I think it did. Uh, few minor tweaks here and there, but we'll get better when we go forward. So, thank you for coming on the channel, bud.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'm really impressed with what you're doing over here. So, I wish you the best of luck.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Have a good night.